Our next submission will be done by Mr. Ajay Devaraj. He is the Secretary General at Indian Wind Power Association. He is a seasoned professional with an extensive senior level experience of international leadership, and he is also an expert in developing scalable systems and processes to address the complex business challenges. Today, Mr. Ajay will talk about the challenges in upscaling wind power's contribution. So, delegates, let's welcome Mr. Ajay Devaraj.
You all. My role as Secretary General is something like that of the agony aunt. Like anybody in the industry who has some kind of an issue comes to me, talks to me about their problems. Okay, so like while the earlier speakers have been rather upbeat about renewable energy, perhaps there's going to be an element of, shall I say, pathos in what I'm going to be talking about. So let me just structure the thing of how I'm going to be doing this. One, I'll give you a brief background. Then I'll categorize challenges, and having categorized those challenges, take up some illustrative issues, both at, say, the SECI project level kind thing, plus operational. And finally, we will actually look at the thing of solutions, some possible solutions in upscaling the wind power's contribution. Okay. So, like first, let me start with the background. The target, as we've heard, for 2022 is 175 gigawatts of power, out of which wind is to contribute 60. Where are we today? As of the 1st of February, we had 38.7 or say 38.8 gigawatts of wind installed capacity. Now, if one looks at the last available thing published, as in February 2020, we had about 7.3 gigawatts under construction. From that point onwards, look at the tenders that were floated and awarded. Like capacity auction since February 2020 is about 2.17 gigawatts. So, like if I do a simple mathematical calculation, what we have balanced then is about 11.7 gigawatts to be fulfilled just to achieve the thing for wind. I'm not talking about solar in this thing, okay? Now, if I look at the last 5 years, the average addition per year has been about 2.5 gigawatts. And if I look at the last 5 years and look at, okay, in which year did we have the highest installation? That was in 2016-17, before the reverse bidding, when the addition went up to about 5.5 gigawatts. Okay. So all these numbers sort of raise the question, will we, won't we? Okay. So now what's going to be done is, let's look at the thing of the challenges. The challenges are basically four. One is the business related challenge, which is like, on the one hand, risk versus return, and the other, the non-tariff additions to cost, which again reduce the thing of the return that the investor gets. Then let's look at the regulatory challenge, where we have issues of center versus state and litigation that goes on and on and on without an end in sight. There are technical challenges, which many of the earlier speakers have indicated. Rashik had indicated this. Integration and the nature of wind. Then there are operational issues, operational challenges, project implementation kind of challenges, and the transmission infrastructure kind of challenge. On the business side, if you look at the risk versus return, I would say that the appetite for risk has certainly gone up. If I look at SECI 8, SECI 9, It was undersubscribed. SECI 10, which was declared, I think, yesterday or the day before, it was oversubscribed, like 3.15 gigawatts of bids for 1.2 gigawatts auctioned. Pretty good stuff. Also, why I'm saying that the risk appetite has gone up is because the earlier auction, SECI 9, went at 2 rupees 99 paisa. This has gone at 2.77. So there is, shall I say, the hope that at 2.77, it is possible to actually deliver results. Fine. There are people who are skeptical about the entire thing, but then so be it. Now, another thing on the thing is land allotment. Okay, like fine, you bid like plenty of the things that projects that were to come up in Gujarat. Like if you really look at what has happened over there, though the bids people had won, there were plenty of things that did not happen. One is on the thing of land allotment. Like earlier on, the government used to allot the thing of land. Then they said, no, no, we don't have the land, no revenue land available for the thing. So you do it on your own. So there are people who have gone and invested, bought private land at exorbitant costs. There are others who have done some investment in terms of the thing of transmission infrastructure, paying deposits, etc. And then finally, the Gujarat government says, no, go to Khavda. There's a park over there, RE Park. Please put the thing up over there. Okay? So like this puts people into a lot of difficulty. The other thing is that at one point in time, probably I think February 2018, the price went down to 2 rupees 43 paisa per kilowatt hour. Like people were aghast. The discoms were very, very happy, thinking that they're going to get power at a reduced rate. But what is the status of that particular thing? It has not reached financial closure. So the project has actually not taken off. So we have a lot of nice looking things on paper, but at ground level, something radically goes wrong. So I think this is something that one needs to be looking at. And when we look at possible solutions, we will look at some of those things. Now, for financial closure, some of the things that are insisted on is that one, there should be a power purchase agreement signed, there should be a power sale agreement signed, and whatever rates are fixed has to be approved by the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. All of this thing takes time. And the time that you give for the completion of this project is about 18 months. Now, obviously, what has happened is that courtesy, whatever has gone on, there have been tremendous time and cost overruns. And like we've had some developers having an issue where the supplier of turbine says that, look, you said you were going to take the turbine and erect and commission it by a particular date. You have not kept to that date. My input costs have gone up. And therefore, like, although I know I have a contract with you to supply at a particular rate, it is no longer feasible for me to provide you the turbines at that rate. So I want a revision. So this is another headache that people face. Then there are non-tariff additions to cost. Case of Andhra Pradesh, renegotiating signed contracts, 4 rupees 48 paisa, reducing it to 2 rupees 43 paisa, and then saying, no, I won't budge. Litigation. Like the thing is that the Andhra Pradesh thing has gone to court. Last 1 year, no movement whatsoever. So much so that some of the developers have chosen to go to the Supreme Court. But over there also, it's a slow moving process. The other thing is discom discomfort. Discoms, as it is, people are aware, are cash strapped. In spite of the liquidity injection, nothing much has happened. There continue to be payment delays. For wind energy generation, it is for between 9 and 12 months of delay. Huge sums of money payable. The other thing is that when a particular discom, say, loses in the Supreme Court, like let me take the case of open access. Okay? Like conversion from an energy purchase agreement to an energy wheeling agreement was vehemently opposed by a particular discom. Like matter went to all kinds of courts. Finally, it was dismissed by the Supreme Court. Now, what has the discom done? Very cleverly, it has now come up with a so-called additional surcharge on open access power. Okay? So what they're really trying to do is to kill the competition. Now you have the Googles of the world, Amazons of the world, ITC, stating that by 2024 or 25, they want to be 100% green energy oriented. That requires open access. But if we are going to be having foolhardy schemes like this, how is that ever actually going to take off? So this is something I think that needs to be looked at. Currently, like if one looks at solar plus wind, the contribution to the grid is about 24.52%. Now, if one is to go by what the Energy Minister, Mr. R.K. Singh, said sometime in, I think, November last year, by 2030, he expects RE to be contributing 65% of the energy. 65% of that energy is to come from RE. So can you imagine what those grid integration costs that Rajshekhar Buddhavarupu are going to be? Who is going to bear that? That is something I think that needs to be looked at. The nature of wind, others have spoken about, so I will not get into that. On the thing of the operational challenges, one is I would say that the transmission infrastructure leaves much to be desired. Like recently, the government of Tamil Nadu, for example, had come up with this thing for repowering. What they have very cleverly stated is that repowering can take place only if the grid is capable of taking in extra power. Okay? Which means that, really speaking, there's going to be no addition over there. So the point is that, like, while the intent is very good, like in terms of the support infrastructure, probably a lot more needs to get done. Now, in terms of technology, there has been ample technological change that has taken place over the years. Like earlier on, like beyond a particular wind speed, you had to switch off. But now, even at higher wind speeds, you're able to continue to generate. But what is the use of that generation if the grid does not accept it or does not have the capability of accepting it? Like we have some states which have massive amounts of curtailment during the year. There are some states where it is not happening at all, no curtailment. So the thing of best practices that we talked about earlier, one of the fellow panelists talked about, why is that not something that we can do even within this country? We don't need to be looking at examples overseas. If one looks at the Western Regional Load Dispatch Center, WRLDC, in the last 5 years, they have managed the thing of having almost zero curtailment, okay, except for the minor things that are required now and then, but by and large, no curtailment over there. So this is Maharashtra and Gujarat. Why is it that the other states cannot learn from the experiences of these places? So now let me get to some of the solutions that we can possibly look at. One is realistic tariffs. This realistic tariffs is something like, I would say, like the Yeti, like an animal that people say exists in the Himalayas. Everybody talks about it, nobody has seen it. Similarly, we have something called the National Tariff Policy. We've been talking about it, nobody has seen it. Like, in fact, a few months back, I had raised this thing with the MNRE. They got back to me a month later and that, said, Section 62 and 63 of the Act prohibit us from having a national tariff policy. Change the law. Do something. Okay. The other thing is that if one looks at SECI tenders, it is all 50 megawatts and above. Those who want captive consumption or wind energy or solar energy for captive consumption don't require 50 megawatts. They require something in the sub 50 megawatt category. Like if one looks at the earlier growth of the wind energy industry, like I said, 2016-17, about 5,500 megawatts was added. Like at that point in time, yes, there was a financial incentive, accelerated depreciation of 80%. Now, everybody talks about the thing of storage, stating that storage is taken care of, and we have a hybrids which have storage as a part of the entire thing. A lot of things will get solved. Another thing is the ease of doing business. While we talk about it at the state level, it really hasn't percolated down the line. Like in the sense that you have a separate ministry talking about the ease of doing business, but go down to say the DISCOM and there's no ease of doing business. So that is something that needs to be looked into. To resolve the center versus state thing, the suggestion is a consultative and a collaborative approach to regulatory issues. We've already made this suggestion to the MNRE. They have accepted this thing, and hopefully we will start moving in that direction. Last but not the least, like India, the manufacturing capability that we have for turbines and wind-related equipment, only about 10% is used. So possibly India could be projected as an export hub for Southeast Asia and Africa.